Welcome to Mostly Minutia. I'm Colleen Lindell. Just a quick note to the listener, this episode takes place at the Twin Cities Pride Fest and features several stories. In the main story, the thread that's going to hopefully keep all the stories flawlessly together, we will be talking about male genitalia, and not the raw form of male genitalia. It'll be more in the light of the drawing of male genitalia. You will be hearing slang words in reference to it, as well as the prim and very proper P word. And I don't even know why I'm saying it like this because it's a podcast and I can say whatever I want. But just to give listeners a chance, if there are kids around or for some reason you have a personal problem with hearing about male genitalia, here is your out now. Also, a very big shout out to Michael Rappaport and Gerald Moody, hosts of the I Am Rappaport Stereo podcast. Up to this point, I haven't really repped other people's podcasts on my show, but if you haven't given their show a listen, you might want to check them out. They're on all podcast platforms and really have a great camaraderie. They're building a good culture, good community, especially amongst males. And they have a catchphrase that goes like this: all loafs matter, referring to male genitalia. So just want to honor them since we'll be on the topic today. All loafs matter. God bless you, Michael and Gerald. And now onto this episode, episode 21, Take Pride. It was the summer of 2016. In fact, it was just this past June. And in fact, I was on hiatus. Not sure how much I've told you about my life, but in my real life, I work as a camera assistant on TV shows. And it just happened that I was, and I still am, on the show MasterChef. We were finishing up season 5 of MasterChef Juniors when the show went on hiatus, at which point some people jump onto other shows, but I decided to go home to Wisconsin to visit my parents and my sister Bonnie. Simultaneously, my sister Bonnie launched a clothing line called Wiener Winks. And Wiener Winks has become, I don't want to call it the bane of my existence because it has been everything but that, but it has challenged my ego. It has challenged my inner child, my pride, my prudence, my intellect. Sometimes I think Wiener Winks is so supremely intelligent that it trumps my own intelligence to a point where I couldn't possibly comprehend it. I will say, from the moment I stepped into my hometown, my life was inundated with Wiener Winks. And that's actually where this story begins. In the Wiener Winks office, the night before traveling to the Twin Cities Pride Festival, Bonnie and her husband Ryan, who you will be introduced to shortly, were busily packing their merchandise. They had already attended Milwaukee Pride, where Wiener Winks had been a huge hit. There were about 33,000 people that had attended that festival versus the Twin Cities Pride, which was expecting about 400,000 visitors. So, needless to say, anticipation was high. Can you tell me what you all have going on in your life right now?
Yes. I am in charge of the guest list and invites for my grandma's 90th birthday party. I am working full-time at Radke Appliance in Oconomowoc selling appliances. I'm waitressing part-time at the Butler Inn in Pewaukee, which is a steakhouse. And I am also the founder and designer of Wiener Winks, which is my baby.
What is Wiener Winks?
Well, Wiener Winks are a series of characters that I created based on the travels of Mr. Wink. And Mr. Wink is a cute little phallic little penis.
Currently, there are 4 Wiener Wink characters, not including Mr. Wink. There's the Mighty Pterodactyl, Shawshank Erection, I Dream of Weenie, and Swollen of Troy. Who is my favorite, if I can pick a favorite?
Swollen of Troy was engaged to a king, and she left the kingdom for a prince. And then, in turn, a war happened. Okay? She's called the woman who launched 1,000 ships because all of the ships went after her. All of these Winks died in pursuit of Swollen of Troy, so I've deemed her the biggest dick of them all. And Mr. Wink is actually friends with her.
Each character is hand-drawn by Bonnie, and each character has their own story of how they met Mr. Wink, who is the unsung hero of Winks, as Bonnie puts it, always traveling to different parts of the globe and always there to lend a hand, stand up for truth and justice.
There was this horrible Wiener Wink who was trying to steal his wallet. And he did. But Mr. Wink got the best of him because there was a police officer nearby. And you would think that this Wiener Wink would be down in the dumps. You would think that he's miserable. But he's not. He's standing erect. And so now we call him the Shawshank Erection. And that's why he's a dick.
You got a lot going on in your life.
I sure do.
As I said, Bonnie and her husband Ryan, who you are about to meet, were busily prepping for Twin Cities Pride. Bonnie and Ryan live in a small town called Oconomowoc. It's about 5 hours from Minneapolis. And up until this point, I was not scheduled to travel with them. Bonnie had asked me to join, but as I mentioned in the beginning, I was unsure about how I felt about Wiener Winks. I wanted to support my sister, but I was confused as to how. If I shared it on social media, how were people going to react? I find that to this day, when I make mention of Wiener Winks, people have one of two reactions. They either think it's hysterical and give an approving nod in respect, or they think it's highly immature and turn their noses to it. And for me, I was riding the fence between the two. Because I know my sister and her humor, I can see why they're hysterical, but there's a part of me that's like, why are penis characters funny? There was one other reason why I was nervous about attending Twin Cities Pride. 2 weeks prior, the Orlando shooting had taken place, and honestly, I was scared. The Twin Cities Festival grounds are open. Anyone can walk on, and with an anticipated 400,000 attendees, I felt on edge about it. But I didn't want fear to get the best of me. I decided even if I don't know how I feel about Wiener Winks, I could at least bring my microphones and interview people. So I headed out to help Ryan, who was in the garage loading the truck. Hi, Ryan. So, what's your plan? Do you think we should try to put this in there tonight?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Once it gets on the plastic, it should slide good.
Cool, and you're going to back up?
Maybe I should, huh? I can't remember if this is exactly where I put it when I set it down. I think it is. But I will. I'll back up a little.
Ryan is trying to figure out how to load an industrial steel cabinet. Ryan refers to the cabinet as military. Bonnie refers to it as butt uggo, short for butt ugly. That's good, Ryan. The cabinet is filled with Wiener Wink attire. It's so heavy that Ryan is trying to position the truck perfectly so the three of us can simply tip it in. 1, 2. Now the question is, how do we get it out?
That is a good question. We'll worry about that up in Minneapolis. Because it will be much harder. We'll figure it out.
No problem.
Yeah.
Piece of cake, honey.
No problems.
Bonnie and Ryan work well together. They are both the brains and the brawn in their relationship. Ryan is an innovator and Bonnie is a pioneer. Being around them is like being around a constant game of improv. Each one continuously says yes and to each other's creative vision. And in this instance, Ryan is playing the supporting role to Bonnie's winking wieners. Bonnie needs a tent, Ryan gets one. Bonnie needs signs, Ryan sends them to get printed. Ryan is meticulous when it comes to detail. Bonnie more of a visionary, making them the perfect duo. The next morning, we leave around 8 a.m. The agenda today is to get to Minneapolis by 2 p.m., set up the tent along with all the merchandise, and then secure it.
Okay, we are packed, loaded,
Ready to roll.
ready to roll.
One thing I haven't mentioned is that my father, Tom Lindell, is also with us. He was with Bonnie at Milwaukee Pride and is a key player on the Wiener Winks crew. My father is one of the most analytical thinkers I have ever known. He spent most of his career as a consultant and is heavily able to listen to and diagnose both sides of an argument. In another world, he would have been a lawyer or a peace negotiator. He also can build a laser with his bare hands, but that's neither here nor there. What is important and what I want you to remember is that Bonnie refers to our father as TL. How was the first Pride Fest? How was Milwaukee?
Milwaukee was tough, you know? I knew that I felt confident about talking to people. I didn't realize, though, that I would have to explain it so much because, to me, the product is obvious what it is because I draw it. But to a new set of eyes, they look like characters, which is what they're supposed to look like. They're not initially supposed to look like penises. What I really liked was that at a specific time, the whole park shut down, and then everybody walked from one end of the park to the next together as a group. None of us really said anything. We just stood there and thought about the victims and their families and, you know, all the turmoil that had ensued from that lunatic that so selfishly shot them to death. That was actually a very nice moment that we all had together to reflect and to pray and just to think loving thoughts, and hopefully the families could feel some of that coming from Milwaukee.
Hennepin is such a major road. At one point, it's even a divided thing going across the Mississippi River.
Entering into the Twin Cities, every street appears to be a one-way. We're in search of Loring Park. TL is looking at a paper map, and Ryan is taking on each street as if he's in a starfighter.
This man right here, he likes to take chances, and that's why I love him, because he's a cowboy. Okay. Cowboy mentality. He's buck wild.
Yeah, what are we looking for?
We're looking for the park. I mean, we're looking
for Loring Park and for the vendor entrance on Loring Park to get to the festival.
Okay, yeah.
It appears we're on the perimeter of the park. This really nice lady tells us we can't go in the entrance she's standing next to, but that we should turn around and go back the way we came. Ryan says okay, and then immediately forges his own path.
Okay, we're going to go to Yale. We're going to go right at the end of Yale, and we're going to come right on LaSalle, and we're going to go to 14th Street.
We follow Ryan's plan, and we get into the park. Each section of the park is color-coded. We are trying to get to the red section, which is the adult section. There's no direct road to where we are trying to get to, so Ryan starts blazing a trail, but it's stopped again.
Yeah, well, we're just trying to get through here. You can't? Okay.
Innovative as he is, Ryan blazes another trail, this time with success.
I wonder if I can cut through right here. This is where I'd like to cut through.
Where are we supposed to be?
We're right here. We're right here. This is where we are.
Okay.
We're in our spot.
Within seconds, we are out of the truck and staking the tent to the ground. Then Ryan calls a meeting to order.
Okay, let's just take a second to talk about this. The thing that's going to happen is we're going to have two tables.
Yes.
Mathematically, this can't be on that corner. Mathematically.
What's happening is it's an 80% chance of rain through the night into tomorrow, and Ryan is trying to come up with a way to secure the tent. He wants to use the steel cabinet, which was surprisingly easy to pull from the truck. He wants to ratchet the tent to the steel cabinet and then in the morning push the cabinet to the back of the display, still keeping it ratcheted to the tent. And even though Bonnie still thinks it's butt-uggo, she concurs.
Okay, I'm going to head my way now. Okay, we're there in the back already.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we're good. Okay, how much pressure am I putting on? Too much?
No, I mean, you feel pretty tight. Maybe you could go a little bit tighter. That's good.
With the tent secure, Bonnie, Ryan, and TL take a stroll through Loring Park, which is huge. There's a pond, there are bridges going over the pond connecting one side of the park to the other, and there's wildlife.
We did really well. It is going to take us probably an hour and a half to set up in the morning.
Yeah, I'd say so.
There's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do.
We have 4 people, so.
That's true.
And we've changed from the last time. We've changed our organizational method. So, but I think we're going to be okay.
The next morning, the steel cabinet has outdone itself. Not only did it literally hold down our fort, but it also kept all the merchandise secure.
Remember what happened yesterday when this thing got empty? It wanted to tip a little bit forward. So
we're going to keep it.
Are we
going to keep it secure up there?
Yes, but as long as the doors are open, it's not going anywhere.
Does that mean it's 9 o'clock?
Must be.
So we have 1 hour-ish.
This next part I don't have recorded because I was not quick on the draw. But what happened was, we were just beginning to set up our tables when this young, charismatic guy stops at our booth and says, "Are you guys Wiener Winks?" To which we all reply, "Yeah." And then he says, "I found you guys on Instagram. My name's Mark Hawley. I own a company called Atlas Defense, and I'm just here volunteering with the Pink Pistols. But I was in the Marines, and I have to tell you, Marines love to do dick drawings." And as an interviewer, there are 3 things that stick out to me here: Atlas Defense, Pink Pistols, and Marines doing dick drawings. So I had to ask Mark why.
Honestly, you're kind of dropped into an environment where everybody from all different types of backgrounds are going to be jammed into a very small area for a long amount of time, and you have to learn to fight with them, and you have to learn to trust them with your life and stuff like that. So honestly, from my perspective, what I've noticed and my theory on it, I think, is that when you have that many guys put together with no background, you just kind of like end up digressing to like the lowest common denominator of maturity. It's like a shared laugh, more or less, but at the same time, it builds that camaraderie and that trust and that esprit de corps, wherein you kind of learn how to live and fight as a unit. My fiance she's been with me for about almost 4 years now, and she still doesn't understand 100% why we think that penises are so funny.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask, because I don't know if it's because I'm female or what the deal is, but like, yeah, why is it?
Because it's a taboo thing, really. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to be talking about penises. Like, that's like a naughty topic to be talking about. That's just, honestly, that's kind of like the way that a unit like that ends up devolving to break ourselves down, and then we build ourselves up after that. Like, for a Marine of our caliber, like, this is like a dream job. You get paid to draw penises and stuff.
Mark's shift at the Pink Pistols booth is about to begin, and I promise I'll meet him later to interview more. It was almost 10 a.m., and the festival was about to open. Bonnie's Wiener Winks booth is damn sexy. There are torsos and buttocks of mannequins wearing her tanks, tees, and underwear. And her colors are vibrant. The tablecloths are watermelon pink and lime green, as well as the signs. There are even fresh flowers. At 10 a.m. sharp, the festival opens, and Bonnie is on.
Hello. Welcome to Wiener Winks, where everything's a wiener and everything's winking.
Who's the artist?
I am.
You're the artist?
Yeah, my name is Bonnie. I was going to say, what kind of man are you? A Shawshank Redemption kind of man, or?
Oh.
And I dream of weenie.
I dream of weenies.
Me too.
There are neighbors on all sides of the Wiener Winks booth. Kitty corner to the left, there's an artist who strictly draws nudes. Directly across, there's the naked Minnesota gay and bisexual male nudists, who are completely nude, wearing styrofoam barrels held up by suspenders so as to cover their wiener winks, as Bonnie says. There's another tent, kitty corner to the right, that is dark purple and engulfed by flames. We've never seen anyone go in or come out, but we have a feeling they're doing good business. And then directly to the right is the animal rights booth that's also promoting veganism. Why this tent is in the adult section beats me.
Hello.
Oh my goodness, hi.
Hi. Welcome to Wiener Winks.
I see. Pretty cool.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Wiener Winks.
Yay.
Yay. That is
hilarious. I love it.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny.
That one comes in a tank top, a gray colored shirt, and then also in this slate color.
After a few hours of observing my sister in her glory, I decide to head over to Mark Holly to find out more about Atlas Defense and the Pink Pistols. And since this is after the fact, and since there's a bit of a walk over to the Pink Pistols booth, I can fill you in a little bit on Mark. Mark joined the Marine Corps Reserves in 2008 as a military police officer. He was later assigned the additional job of combat marksman coach. In 2011, Mark was deployed to Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom, where he, 7 other Marines, and the Australian Federal Police lived with and trained the Afghan National Police on situational awareness, tactics, and firearms. Mark assisted in training over 700 Afghan police officers, and Atlas Defense was largely born out of Mark's experience there. Atlas Defense offers one-on-one situational awareness training and firearms coaching. Their target demographic is females and the LGBTQ community. When the Orlando shooting took place, Mark decided to volunteer his time and skills to an LGBTQ organization, and that's how he found Pink Pistols. Pink Pistols is a nonprofit organization with 45 chapters across the United States. It started in San Francisco when an article came out March 13, 2000, in Salon magazine. The article was written by Jonathan Rauch regarding the gay community protecting themselves against bullying and hate crimes. The article states, quote, 31 states allow all qualified citizens to carry concealed weapons. In those states, homosexuals should embark on organized efforts to become comfortable with guns, learn to use them safely, and carry them. They should set up Pink Pistols task forces, sponsor shooting courses, and help homosexuals get licensed to carry. And they should do it in a way that gets as much publicity as possible. End quote. The day before Twin Cities Pride, Mark held a free situational awareness class through Pink Pistols to an extremely positive response. Here's Mark.
When Orlando did happen, I decided that instead of acting like the rest of my industry, I was going to promote situational awareness training because I felt it was the most ethical and relevant response that I could make as my business goes. And I put that on in preparation so people that are coming to Pride Festival can feel like they're a little bit more situationally aware of their surroundings without having to resort straight to a firearm. Because despite the fact that I'm a firearms trainer, I'll be totally honest, I have more skills at my disposal than just firearms.
So I was wondering, can you explain what situational awareness is?
Absolutely. So situational awareness, in the context that I decided to teach it, was going beyond just the regular combat mindset that was taught to me in the Marine Corps. And being situationally aware means building as many bases of knowledge, as many paradigms as you can to make informed decisions off of, not using your relative paradigm to try to apply that to every situation in your life. So I actually set up a couple little details throughout the hallway as they approach the conference room and see if my students would actually notice those types of details and those little nuances that I put in to force them to break out of their everyday, way that they see the world, and force them to look up or look down, look side to side, or interact with more people, or just to be curious. That's what it comes down to with situational awareness, is being curious about your environment and questioning things and saying, oh, I wonder why that gym bag has been sitting on that stairwell case. Instead of just walking past it, maybe I should call security, or maybe I should do something about it instead of just walking through my life with my blinders on. If you just try turning off the music in your car, you'd be amazed at the stuff that you start noticing.
I was wondering, in your opinion, what do you think is the answer to the gun situation in the United States?
The gun situation as in the politics that are behind it, or the regulations? Regulations, I think that we need to invest more research and more time and money into doing a real background check. The background check system that we have now in Minnesota, it actually works. Every time that I actually buy a firearm, I get delayed by about 5 business days. I actually made an appeal to the FBI, and they couldn't give me a straight answer, but when I did a little bit more research on my own, I found out that I get delayed when I buy firearms because I was born outside the country. I was born in Colombia, and I've traveled quite a bit in and out of the Middle East between my time in the Marines and my time in private contracting. Those are justifiable red flags. So I think the system as it is in Minnesota, it does its job, it does work, but the problem is that the FBI overall and the way that the background checks are done is just that there's such a huge volume. And if you think about it, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are trying to get their background checks processed all at the same time. So I think it mostly just comes down to a problem of the inefficiency of the way that our 3-letter agencies work. That, and actually putting more stress on mental health too, I think is something that has been glazed over. There's a problem with overprescribing. People are just sweeping the mental health issue under the rug. And as a veteran myself, I am well aware of the fact that we have 22 veteran suicides every single day. And that's because organizations like the VA and our mental health establishment as a whole doesn't get enough attention that I think that it really should. So I think more stress on mental health and more efficiency in our background check process, I think, would be the solution that I would suggest to the overall problem. Yeah.
And Mark, can you tell me why or how you came to the decision of joining the Marines? What was the motivation behind it?
When I decided to join the Marines, there was a number of different reasons. I kind of knew in the back of my mind, my entire life growing up, that I wanted to join the Marines. And the reason being that I felt that I kind of owed something back to the United States for all the opportunities that I was given, because I was adopted from Colombia when I was very young. And I grew up in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago, and I have had tons of opportunities given to me that I would have never came across if I had stayed in Colombia. So I just saw it as my way of giving back to the United States, because I feel like I owe them a great debt. And that's kind of how the Marines prepared me to do what I do now.
Mark and I walk over to the Pink Pistols booth where the president of Pink Pistols Twin Cities, coincidentally also named Mark, is handing out flyers and answering questions. And even though he's busy, he graciously gives me a few minutes of his time. Here's Mark.
I'm Mark Steiger. I'm the president of Pink Pistols Twin Cities. I was on Canadian TV, their version of Headline News, and then I've been on a couple of radio shows and 3 or 4 podcasts just since the Orlando incident.
Okay. What made you want to be a part of it in the first place?
I believe it's everybody's right to defend themselves. And Pink Pistols helps get that message across with training by promoting training and safe handling of guns.
And what kind of events do you guys put on, or how do you build community?
About once a month we get together at a range and do some shooting, and then afterwards usually go out for lunch. We're also doing some training classes this month. We're offering a carry permit class and a situational awareness class, and even a learn how to shoot a pistol class for people that have never fired a gun before. It's an environment where people can ask questions and not feel scared and not feel worried about what's going on, because almost everybody there's going to be a beginner, so it's going to be a very safe place to learn.
If people want to get involved with Pink Pistols, how can they get involved?
They go to our website at pinkpistolstc.com, and we're also on Facebook as Pink Pistols TC.
Something Mark Holly mentioned to me that I didn't get on tape is that in the wake of Orlando, the city of Minneapolis had taken extra precaution in setting up safety measures for the festival. This somehow made me feel a bit safer. Later, when researching for this episode, I found an article from Fox9.com that states, Minneapolis Police Department confirmed it would have its largest show of force at any Twin Cities Pride celebration, including bike, mounted, and canine patrols. The uniformed presence will be visible, and people will be aware of that. But security is more than just a uniformed officer on the ground. We have additional measures in place as well. This is quoted from Minneapolis Chief of Police Jason Ohato.
But I never run away, even when I'm away. OT, there's never much love when we go OT. I pray to make it better, more please. I pray.
As I arrive at the Wiener Winks booth, Bonnie's very upbeat. Ryan is sitting with a legal pad drawing up schematics, making adjustments for the future Wiener Winks booth. And TL is standing tall, wearing the Shawshank erection shirt, patiently awaiting the next customer. It's in the 90s, everyone's faces are flushed. Rain is still heavy in the forecast, and gray cumulus clouds are rolling in.
So we've had a good turnout so far. A lot of people have been interested in the products, and I have to say that people have really been taking a liking to I Dream of Weenie, which was not a top favorite in Milwaukee. So,
what was the top favorite in Milwaukee?
Shawshank Erection was definitely on the top, and then Swelling of Troy took a close second. But it's all in how you market them. I mean, look at Dad right over here wearing the Shawshank Erection. He was definitely standing at full salute in front of all of Milwaukee.
What's the challenge today?
Well, the challenge today was we got here and we didn't have tables yet, but they came. They came really, really closely after we arrived. And the other challenge is the wind. So Ryan and TL over here had to make sure that everything was nice and secure, which they did a great job.
What's the status with the storm?
I don't know. Out of sight, out of mind for me. If you want to talk about the weather, talk to TL or Ryan. They're the ones who are keeping tabs on that. I'm trying to stay positive. Wiener Winks!
That was a pretty good gust.
My windsock is not doing any justice.
The winds pick up, we have to shut down a few hours early, and Bonnie is disappointed. The gusts are so strong that it's hard to lower the tent. One vendor's tent has blown completely over and he's fighting to tame it. And the naughty tent, or I guess we're not so sure whether it's naughty or not, but the one with the flames on it, we never even saw them close, but they're all zipped up, not a person in sight. And that night it doesn't rain, but we do sleep in air conditioning. The next morning, iced coffees in hand, we open the tent to the cabinet at full salute. Zero damage, merchandise intact.
Give me a lot of slack, Ryan.
I left quite a bit of slack.
Are we there?
I think we're there.
Okay. Now we can raise the poles, right?
Yeah, now we have no reason why we can't. Yep. We'll
We
really
make
good.
these improvements every time we do one of these. We knew what we were doing this time.
Yeah. We have a plan at least.
I decide to talk with Bonnie about Mark Holly, since we haven't had a chance to chat about him yet.
Do you want to talk about Mark? What you learned about Mark yesterday?
I learned that Mark is a Marine, and I also learned that Marines enjoy drawing fallacies. So he said that he knows that there would be probably a lot of U.S. Marines that would really enjoy our artwork. That was really, really endearing and heartwarming to me, because I love our artwork and I also love our Marines.
Within a few minutes of this conversation, Mark stops by the booth,
Hey, good morning.
Morning! Hey, nice shirt!
And he's wearing a Wiener Winks shirt, the mighty pterodactyl to be exact, which is a flying pterodactyl in the shape of a giant wiener.
Oh, the mighty pterodactyl. I actually chose this one because one of my favorite dick drawings that I've done myself was Coxzilla. And it reminded me of a dinosaur-themed type of penis because I think that dinosaurs are pretty cool.
And you said that you posted a picture of your shirt or something and that you were getting some responses from it?
Oh yeah, I sent a picture of my shirt to some of my buddies on Snapchat, and they're like, "Mark, are you selling your dick drawings now?" It's so predictable that they thought that I was drawing these penises because of our history with dick drawings.
Maybe they should be getting paid more.
Maybe they should. Yeah, maybe that's something that the VA should look into when they're trying to find us jobs when we get out, is get paid to draw penises.
Mark takes off and we continue with setup. I keep hearing music in the distance. It sounds like a brass band.
Is this a real band, do you think?
Ryan, Bonnie, and TL are all super involved. So I decide to find out where this music is coming from. I make my way through the grounds, and as I get closer to the music, I see it's actually a church service. The pastor is on stage with a choir and a 6-piece band. There are benches and chairs filled with people, all different sizes and colors, and I arrive just as the service ends.
Go in peace.
As the band starts, the pastor is off the stage greeting people and stacking chairs, and I rush over to get a word with him.
I am Dwayne Davis. I am pastor of All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church in South Minneapolis. My ministry is a part of the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches, which is an international denomination founded in 1968 with a special ministry to LGBT people. I grew up Pentecostal, but being a gay man, Pentecostal church was not welcoming of my ministry. And I found this denomination that gave me an opportunity to pursue my ministry, and they did a nationwide search for a pastor and got my profile, and I came and had a conversation about doing this ministry, and that's how my husband and I ended up here. Yeah.
This is hard to hear, but I'm asking Pastor Dwayne why he believes God is love. Because just a second earlier, as I was walking up, and what the mic couldn't pick up, was Pastor Dwayne emphatically talking with his congregation about God being love. So I'm asking him why he believes this to be true.
Yes. Well, you can read the Bible several ways. And one of the things that is very clear throughout the biblical narrative is the character of God. And the character of God is such that God is love. You've heard that. Almost a cliche. How does a cliche become a cliche? But God is love. No matter all of the minutia or the details, there's this unwavering commitment to the human project on God's part. From Genesis to Revelation, there is this intense need to be with us. To me, that highlights the character of love. There is nothing you can do. You can try. Look at the Psalms. The Psalm writers were trying. They were yelling at God. They were mad. And in the end, love. What is love personified? In the character of Jesus, whether you consider Jesus to be just a historical figure or if you consider it to be the Christ as a theological figure, the whole message of Jesus is love. And so everything that I have to do is about serving my neighbor, and all of the places that my neighbor shows up. That means anybody who comes through that door, our responsibility is to let them know that they have stepped into an outpost of the reign of God. Just like a military outpost, American military outpost, if you go in Germany to a military post, as soon as you step through the gate, for all practical purposes, you are on American soil. Well, in All God's Children, wherever you step where we are, you are for all practical purposes in the reign of God. Anybody who comes through the door, gay, straight, homeless, wealthy, our ministry of God's unconditional love is for you.
Well, I can see God's anointing on your life, so...
Keep praying for us. Keep us in your thoughts and prayers. We've got a lot of work to do. And too few hands, but you pray for us.
I will. Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you.
As I bid Pastor Dwayne farewell, the festival grounds are filling by the hundreds. Twin Cities Pride is a family-oriented festival, and people are wheeling their kids and dogs around in radio flyers. I'm walking through artists' tents. One woman hand paints earrings with the late and wonderfully great Prince on them, and I literally can't help it. I buy 3 pairs, one for me, one for Bonnie, and one for our cousin Harmony, because these are the kinds of earrings you have to wear with your friends. Then there's a body glitter tent. People are being doused in glitter, and I'm locked in a trance watching this because it's just so mesmerizing. And then I get a text from an old college friend named Katrina, who says she's also at Twin Cities Pride. She's across the park manning a booth for a nonprofit. And this makes me really excited because I haven't seen Katrina in years. I met Katrina during my junior year in college when I was an RA, short for resident assistant. Katrina was one of my residents, and at the time, I knew that Katrina was the oldest of 6 kids and that she came from a Christian family. The last thing I had heard was that some years ago, Katrina had come out as bisexual, so I wanted to support her somehow, but couldn't find her anywhere on social media. Then about a year ago, she appears. She's married to a man named Jonathan, and they have a little son named Anthony. So I'm really anxious to hear her story, but first I need to make a pit stop back at the Wiener Winks booth with Bonnie. As I arrive at the booth, Bonnie is still standing front and center, but she's looking a bit dismayed. People are stopping at the booth and looking, but no one's buying. TL is standing a few feet off to the side, and in classic TL style, he begins to speculate as to why.
People are willing to spend $12 on a little bit of food that they're just going to eat, digest, and flush, but not willing to spend $20 on a tank top that's going to last for a very long time and bring them joy.
Or they're feeling like they only have a certain amount of money to blow, and too much of it is going into food.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Or
because they're not even paying any admission here. Or they just don't feel like buying anything. Could it be that?
I don't see who wouldn't want one of these. I want them all.
Bonnie, Mark just texted me that he's posting where your booth is. He's trying to direct people to you.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Just then, a young guy and a girl, maybe in their mid-20s, walk up to the booth.
Do you have underwear?
We do.
The guy asks if they have underwear, then quickly recants and says, "My head says yes, my wallet says no."
My head says yes, my wallet says no.
Did you get a card? For when your wallet says yes, you can go online.
Yeah. You're online?
Yeah.
If I get a card too, I'll definitely go online when my wallet says yes.
Thank you.
I don't enjoy seeing my sister down on her morale, but I don't want to miss this opportunity to see Katrina. Bonnie understands, so I head across the park. I know a few other things about Katrina. I know that she's worked as a teacher in the Anoka-Hennepin School District, which is a large district just northwest of Minneapolis with 59 schools and approximately 37,000 students. Katrina decided as much as she loves teaching, she was actually most passionate about youth advocacy with the GSAs of Anoka-Hennepin. GSA stands for Gay Straight Alliance, or Gender and Sexuality Alliance. Most schools have a GSA, and for years Katrina has worked with students, helping to open up conversation about sexual and gender identity. When I finally met up with Katrina, I'm glad to say it was like we hadn't missed a beat. Here's Katrina.
I definitely grew up not knowing who I was exactly, but knowing that there was something really different about me as being, a girl who was very gender non-conforming in terms of like being into all the typical boy stuff. I always laugh because a lot of like couples when they when they're pregnant, if they choose to find out the sex of the baby ahead of time, sometimes they'll do like what is called a gender reveal party. Have you heard of these?
Yes.
Where they do it's like a big announcement. Like sometimes they'll break a piñata, and then if the candy that comes out is little like Nestle Crunch bars, which have a blue wrapper, then everybody knows, oh, it's a boy. And if little pink Starbursts come out, then that means it's a girl. And then automatically people start making assumptions about like what that child is going to be like, what they will wear, what they will play with, what they will be interested in. And sometimes all of those expectations or those assumptions come true, because that's just like who the kid is, But it is just true that not everyone identifies as the sex they were assigned at birth. In fact, there's an article on the front page of the St. Paul paper today about a 5-year-old girl named Hildy who was born and given the name Holden and was being raised as a boy because her parents thought, we have a son. And from the second she could talk, she would say, no, Mama, I'm a girl. Yeah, I mean, for some people, what's in their brain and what's in their heart about who they know that they are does not align with their body or this decision that was made for them when they were born.
I was wondering, how can we be supportive of people who are transgender in general? How can we make room for them, like in our speech, in our thought patterns?
Yeah. Well, that's such an important question. And I think one of the most important things that really good allies do is just listen. Listen to people and believe what people say about who they are and what their experience is. Having the openness to listen and to use the names that people want to go by, because often when people transition, not always, but often will involve taking on a new name and starting to go by different pronouns. And so that's another aspect of this, that like a lot of people still think of gender as like, well, there's two. Maybe you transition from male to female or female to male. And that is true of like a lot of people who are trans. But then there are people who they feel like they're either something in between or they're just outside of the gender binary system altogether. Sometimes people will identify as genderqueer or non-binary. That's becoming like another term that is used. I saw that on
some t-shirts here.
Yeah.
And what does that mean, non-binary?
Yeah, it just means that they don't identify as either like male or female. They're
just themselves?
Yeah, they're just a person. They're outside of this system of where there's only two options.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. And so sometimes people who have, a non-binary identity will, rather than going by he or she, they will choose like gender-neutral pronouns. So they, as a singular pronoun, is becoming more common within the LGBTQ community.
I was wondering if you felt at all like you wanted to talk personally about yourself and what you were identifying with.
Yeah. So when I first when I first came out as like someone within the LGBTQ community, like someone who wasn't straight, I came out as bisexual. I had always been really gender nonconforming, and I felt different than other girls. And I became aware of the stereotypes often associated with that. That like, oh, so like people are gonna think I'm gay. But I was always really uncomfortable with that because I was like, I'm not gay. Like I do want a boyfriend and like I do have crushes on boys. It wasn't until I fell in love with and got into a relationship with a woman in college that I realized like, oh, so all those crushes and attractions that I had for like boys were real, but like I also have this like for women too, and I just never realized it before. So I identify as bisexual. I will use the words like bisexual, queer, or sometimes pansexual as well. Like I sort of use those interchangeably. There's a slightly more of an emphasis with pansexual on because it's a prefix that means all. So like all genders. It makes it really clear that you're not thinking of like gender in this binary way, just one or the other. But yeah, it depends on who I'm talking to. Like when I'm talking to my mom, I don't try to explain like pansexual or like, so that's like sexuality. But then with gender, this is something that over the last several months, I've been thinking about more and more and realizing like this is another phenomenon that actually goes way back for me. I always felt not really like a girl. So right now I identify as genderqueer. Often when I'm in like LGBT community spaces, when people ask about pronouns, I'll be like, yeah, I go by they, them. Always it's assumed, like when I'm out in the world though, in general, people call me she. But to me it feels more right, and it feels a little more like liberating just to say like I go by they, them. I'm thinking about going by a different name, just something a little more gender neutral or more masculine sounding, because that's how I feel. I've always just been a more masculine person, and sometimes I would feel uncomfortable about that because I was like, I'm not supposed to be this way, but yet I can't really be any other way.
Yeah, I wanted to know like what makes you feel like you're more masculine, because is it a hormone level?
I've thought about that before because I know that we all have estrogen and testosterone. Right. And like men have much more testosterone, right? And women have more estrogen. But even like among people who are, for lack of a better word, like biologically women, it can vary. And so I wonder, does it correlate with that? I don't know. But yeah, from like the time that I can remember, I was just like interested and drawn to things that were associated with boys and what was expected of boys. And when I could pick like a historical person to do a report on in 3rd grade, for some reason I picked Henry Ford. But it was because I wanted to wear a suit to school, like a jacket and a tie. And I was like, oh, I guess this like makes me a super big weirdo, but that's just what I wanted to do. Because more and more as I've thought about this and as I've talked about it, I don't identify as a cisgender person. So cisgender is the word for like for all the people who do identify with the sex they were assigned at birth. And cis just means on the same side of, and then trans means like crossing over. So I don't feel like a cisgender person. I don't feel like a cis woman. So genderqueer has been like the word that I use for it.
I was wondering if you can define for people what queer means.
Yeah, so queer can be used in a couple of ways. First of all, a lot of people know that it was like originally a derogatory term, so it can like be an insult for people who are gay or like perceived as gay. But for the most part, it has been reclaimed as a positive term of like self-identity. You know, a lot of universities have like queer studies classes and things like that. So yeah, it's really been kind of like one of those words that's been taken back. Instead of saying the acronym that can get really long of LGBTQ, sometimes it can just, queer can just be like everybody who isn't straight or cisgender. So you can talk about the queer community as like everybody who falls under the many more specific identities. Some people use it as like their specific word that they describe their own identity. Like instead of saying gay, they prefer queer, or instead of saying bi, they just say I'm just queer. It tends to have a connotation that is a little bit more countercultural, and it can indicate a sort of approach to gender and sexuality, sort of challenges binary ways of thinking in general.
I was wondering if when you realized that you were bisexual, if there was any shame that you experienced in, because I feel like your story, I don't feel like you carry shame with you at all. But was there any shame that you had to conquer in coming out as bisexual?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, now I've talked about it enough that I am really open with it, and I feel really comfortable with it. But when I first realized it, well, first I wondered if I was gay and if I had just been gay all along. And then I realized, like, no, this actually doesn't negate all of the attractions that I have for men. It's like, it just feels like a new thing. It's like an additional realization that I'm having. But yeah, I felt like I should have, kind of like ashamed of myself, like I should have realized this earlier. I was still in college, but I was 24. And I was in a serious relationship with the guy who I'm now married to. You know, at first it was like secret, and it was in this relationship where I was like cheating. But then I was like, but I need to do this. You know, is kind of how I felt. So there was a lot of stuff to work through. You know, he was upset to find out about what had been going on with me and this girl who he thought was just my friend. But at the same time, he realized that this was really significant for me in just terms of figuring out who I am. So it was actually like on National Coming Out Day in October 11th, 2012, that I sat down with my mom and my dad and 3 of my siblings. And that was really scary because I have been raised with very traditional Christian views and messages about God's plan for marriage and dating and things like that. Yeah. So I was scared, but it was more like I was scared that they would feel ashamed of me, but I didn't feel shame about myself anymore. I more would have felt shame had I let it go any longer without just talking about it.
What was their reaction like?
Well, my dad, I could tell that he did not like it at all. Like he walked out of the room for a while when I was talking, and then he like got out his iPad and was like scrolling through that for a while. Then when he did start talking, he just wanted to debate with me about the amendment and why marriage should just be for a man and a woman. And he kind of didn't seem to want to engage with what I had just said or like recognize that it was real. I mean, it could have been worse, but it also felt kind of like hurtful. Like, did you hear what I just said? You know? And then my mom got kind of emotional. She was like crying, and she kept looking at John, because John, my partner, was there, because I wanted them to see that like this is true about me, but this doesn't actually mean that like John and I are going to get a divorce now, which is for what my mom thought for a while. She didn't know like how this could work, basically. I think it's still something that like both my parents like I prefer not to think about. I think they kind of feel like they don't have to in a lot of ways because I'm married to a guy. But my siblings were good.
Do you have any words of wisdom to give to someone who is kind of dealing with, or like in similar situation, or dealing with their gender identity?
Sure. I would say it's okay to be patient with yourself and be gentle with yourself. You know yourself better than anybody else. And even if what you know about yourself right now is that you don't have it all figured out, that's okay, and you deserve to just be able to be who you are. And even if there isn't a label for it that's really easy to ascribe to, or even if you feel like you should be more open about it, but it's hard, it's like just give yourself room to breathe and be patient and be kind to yourself, like as kind as you would be to like your best friend and your loved ones. Like, do that for yourself, because you deserve that.
It's really good. Yeah. Thanks, Katrina.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Katrina and I walk over to the Wiener Winks booth, and I'm surprised to see Bonnie's energy has returned. Sales are still nowhere where they need to be. However, Bonnie is keeping her head high. Katrina buys a wink hat which has an embroidered image of Mr. Wink winking and giving a thumbs up. She puts it on and poses for a picture that Bonnie tells her is going on her wall of winks, aka her website. We say goodbye to Katrina and Bonnie continues talking with customers, full steam ahead.
Hello. Hi. Hi there. Hi. How are you today? Good. We've got tees and tanks, hats, bands, and unders.
Bonnie goes for 4 hours like this without a sale, and then just as the fest is about to close, something magical happens.
Hi there.
Is this a men's shirt?
Yeah.
Do you have small?
We do.
Yeah, I'll take one.
All right. You like that color, or we have it in this color too, this gray color?
I like this one.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Do you want this in a bag?
No, I'll put it on right now, actually.
All right.
Thank you.
Can I take a picture of you and put it on my website?
Sure.
I'll put you on my wall of winks. Oh yeah, you look great. All right, 1, 2, 3. Proud to be your Vulcan. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye. Have a good day. Oh, he looks good in that shirt.
That's an individual.
Yeah.
Thank you to Mark Hawley, owner of Atlas Defense Minnesota, Mark Steiger, president of Pink Pistols Twin Cities, Dwayne Davis, pastor of All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church, Katrina Plotz, and Bonnie Terrill, Ryan Terrill, and Tom Lindell of the faithful Wiener Winks pioneers. If you're interested in more information on Atlas Defense Minnesota and their situational awareness and firearms training, check out atlasdefensemn.com, where Mark Hawley has a very informative blog on upcoming events, as well as one of his most recent experiences at Man Camp. If you're in New York City December 4th through the 9th, a Situational Awareness Week is coming to you. For more information, contact Mark at atlasdefensemn.com. Mark is also on Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook under Atlas Defense. He goes live on Facebook every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, and I have to say, his Facebook Live is my favorite. If you're interested in finding out more about Pink Pistols Twin Cities and how you can attend a meeting or a training, check out pinkpistolstc.com. Or to find a local chapter near you and read the original article written by Jonathan Rauch, go to pinkpistols.org. To find out more about Pastor Dwayne Davis and All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church, maybe you want to attend a service or listen to a sermon online, go to agcmcc.org. That's agcmcc.org. Lastly, for all things winking and all things wieners, head to wienerwinks.com. WIENERWINKS.com, where you can see images of yours truly modeling my favorite Wiener Wink, Swollen of Troy. Wiener Winks is also on Instagram and Facebook. Music featured in this episode by artists Home and Chris Zabriskie. Home is playing underneath this from the track Bright Lights in Silent Rooms, followed by Chris Zabriskie, a track called Heliograph. You can find more of Home and Chris Zabriskie at bandcamp.com or SoundCloud. And as always, you can find links to all of these on my site, colleenlindell.com. Hats off to the police officers who graciously protected the citizens at Twin Cities Pride, including the Minneapolis Police, Metro Transit Police, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, and the Minneapolis Parks Police. We are so grateful for you and your service to us. Finally, you might be wondering where Bonnie got the idea for Wiener Winks. Well, following this, there's an 18-minute one-on-one bonus interview with Bonnie where she lays out the origin story behind Wiener Winks. It involves our school lunches, our mother, and Bonnie's disdain for them. Not for our mother, but the school lunches. This episode of Mostly Minutia was recorded on location at the 2016 Twin Cities Pride Festival and is dedicated to the Orlando victims, their families, and friends. So Bonnie, something that people are really going to want to know is, where did the Wiener Wink idea come from?
Well, I think I calculated that the idea came up about 6 years ago. I was talking with my mother about school lunches, okay? And if you look up Wiener Winks online, you will see that all the images that come up are hot dogs wrapped in toast, okay? That's a Wiener Wink. Yeah, barf. So when we were little, as part of the hot lunch program, they would provide once every couple weeks a dish called Wiener Winks. It wasn't delicious. I'll just say that. So our mother, Mary Pat, who is just a wonderful, delightful, short little lady, she called the school actually and asked them, "What are you feeding my children?" Because she didn't know what a Wiener Wink was. And they told her, and she was like, "Gross." So she brought this up about 6 years ago to me, and I started imagining, my brain goes wild all the time. I'm very creative. This idea popped into my head right away, and I told her about it, and she was not pleased.
What do you mean? What did she say?
She said I was disgusting and to dismiss the idea. Because at the time, Colleen, I had actually just gotten done taking a stained glass course with our Father Tom. And we had learned, we went to a stained glass window shop in Oconomowoc that was a popular shop, and this woman did great work. She's not there anymore. I think she's retired. Her name was Renata, and she did really great work. And she taught us how to cut these pieces of colored glass and then solder them together in a design. We made some hanging window art. It was really cool.
And Dad's was really nice.
Mine was pretty awesome. Anyway, at any rate, my first thought was, I am going to cut pieces of glass, solder them together, and they're going to be shaped like a penis, and the testicles will be the eyes. And I will paint, I don't know how to paint, by the way. I'm going to paint one eye open in one testicle and one eye winking in the other testicle, okay? It was like a kind of moment for me. A genius moment. And Mary Pat right away was like shutting it down. "No, you are not going to do that." And I said, "Oh, I think so."
So you had this idea and you right away told Mom?
Oh yeah, I told her immediately just because at that point, like Mom and I, she lived very close to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was at her house all the time. I was riding my scooter to her house in the morning, having coffee with her. We would just chat and be silly together and
spitball ideas.
Yes. We would giggle a lot and sing and talk to each other in really weird voices. It was really an amazing time. So I told her the idea. She slammed it down. Let me tell you what I did then. I started drawing these prototype winks. You know, if you see these old drawings, you will die hysterically laughing. They are so disgusting looking and really unpleasant. They're really unpleasant. Okay? And so I had to change the design. So I changed it to testicles as feet and a winking face where the head is now. And it was cute. For some reason, it was cute. Okay? And then I realized that I really sucked at stained glass window art because I just was not willing to...
You didn't want to take the time to finish learning, like...
I did
the technique.
No, I don't want to take the time to do that. I don't want to take the time to continuously cut my fingers over and over and over again on these little shards of glass. Honest to God, Colleen, I had Band-Aids all over my fingers. My friend, who is my coworker, his name is Tim, he let me use his basement. I brought my whole shop there. I set it up. I only worked in that shop 3 times and I was done. And Tim kept making comments to me like, "See, you weren't at the house again." Because Colleen, I was in there for like 3 months and only there 3 times because I hated it.
Yeah, you weren't into it.
Oh God, it sucked. I hated it. So I packed up shop, then told Mary Pat about it, and she gave me some cartooning books.
Well, and you said Mom also came up with ideas.
She didn't mean to. She didn't want to be a part of this. Here's the thing. With our mother, she is very good at character drawing. She will say she's not an artist, but she is an artist. So I thought this would be probably good like on a t-shirt, and I can see like high school boys wearing them as a joke. I'm thinking like Big Johnson. Big Johnson and Co-ed Naked, like the shirts,
those campaigns,
the naughty shirts that we used to want to wear when we were younger, and we'd see people in our schools wearing them.
Yeah.
Those are my heroes. You know, Big Johnson is my hero. Co-ed Naked is hilarious. Co-ed Naked is my hero. So I wanted to make these t-shirts for like rebellious children. I'm such a bad person.
No, your finger's on the pulse, man.
Dude, that's the stuff that we liked when we were younger. It's immature. It's hilarious.
Well, and you dated somebody with the last name Johnson, and everybody called him
Big Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So I started thinking about those labels and putting myself in a younger mind frame. And then I was talking to Mary Pat about it, and she said she didn't want anything to do with it. She was not going to help design these. I have to tell you, like, I drew one thing that looked semi-decent once in 7th grade. And that was it. I've never wanted to draw since then. Grandma Mary, who is also an artist, she said, "Oh, that looks great. That looks good. You might have a talent." And the reason why I drew it was because she was in the house. And it was a still life drawing of a vase that we had with flowers in it. And I drew it and I showed it to her, and she said it was good. And then I closed that chapter. Like, it was really weird, Colleen, because I saw it and I had a piece of paper and I thought, I can draw that. And I drew it and I showed it to Grandma. She said it was good. I put it away. I still have it. And I thought, okay, I'm done with that. And I was done with that. I moved on to theater, and that was really fun. So she gave me some cartooning books. I was telling her some of the names that I was coming up with for the Wiener Winks. She's like, gross. I said, no, Mom, you know, a pterodactyl? We could call it a pterodictyl. And it could be like this flying phallic creature. And it could be dangling a woman, like he's taking her as his prey. Mom's reaction was, no, that's disgusting. No. Shawshank Erection. Oh my God. And she was mortified that she said it. It blurted out of her mouth so fast. She was like, Shawshank Erection. Oh my God. You know, it's like she couldn't keep it in. It just came out. Who am I? I'll tell you who you are. You're disgusting, just like everybody else. It's so funny, though, that happened. But she gave me these cartooning books, and I sat down and learned how to draw. I was drawing faces. I was taking this one cartooning book was awesome because it just gave you a whole bunch of different eye shapes and mouth shapes. And, you know, and so you learn how to draw specific things, and then you put them together and you created your own faces.
I like that Mom, she said she wasn't going to help you at all, and she gave you the cartooning books.
Yeah, no, she wasn't going to design them because that's disgusting.
But you've had this effect now on several people where, you know, they see what you're doing and then they immediately, their brains just naturally start thinking of names of different.
You'll meet specific people and their brain will go crazy. So like our cousin Jessie, she immediately just started coming up with names. Yeah, people, I mean, at the Pride festivals, people were giving us ideas all the time. And I really thought it was fun. It was fun.
Now tell me about Mark Holly.
Mark Holly is my friend. He is the owner and founder of Atlas Defense in Minneapolis. He came by our booth at Twin City Pride several times, and he is a U.S. Marine. And he said the reason why he loved it so much was because it reminded him of when he was active. He and his fellow Marines, they would create penis art as jokes. And so he bought a mighty pterodactyl, and then he recently contacted me, actually this week, and said that he gave away his tank top to his buddy who was getting married. And then he just ordered another tank top for himself.
I love that.
I know, me too. But Mark is a very, very nice, sweet person. He's very intelligent. He's well-spoken. He just got married. So congratulations to Mark and Heidi.
But he's very supportive of small businesses.
He's super supportive of small businesses. He's super supportive of the gay and lesbian, transgender, bisexual community. He not only teaches people how to shoot firearms responsibly, but he also teaches them how to react, how to react with a level head. And he's just a good guy.
Mm-hmm. And his Facebook Live is awesome.
Yeah, his Facebook Live is awesome.
He takes all of us on adventures continuously, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I love it. So last question is, what are your hopes for Wiener Winks right now? What do you want to see happen?
My hopes for Wiener Winks, I would like to continue to grow the brand, get some more winks out, which I have a couple that, I'm so close to debuting a couple more winks. I think it would be awesome if a larger brand picked up Wiener Winks. I think that would be amazing. Or, God, Wiener Winks are so perfect for like Spencer's Gifts. I'm a baby right now, and I don't know. I'm learning and I'm growing as time is going on. I have to do all this on my own, all this research and trying to figure out, what avenues to take. I did not know what I was doing when I was drawing the Wiener Winks. I didn't even know how to draw. So this has been a very slow process for me. It's been 6 years. I love them so much. Mm-hmm. I would just love to see something happen with this company. I'd love to see more people wearing Wiener Winks and doing the wink head roll, which is something that I just think is amazing.
Yeah, what's the wink head roll?
Okay, so the wink head roll is you adorn your Wiener Wink on your head, so your hat or your wink band, and then you turn on your favorite song and you dance and you roll your wink around. And you be rolling. It's the funniest thing to me ever. And
really
if you go on the Wiener Winks Facebook page or Instagram, you can see me doing a Wiener Wink head roll to my friend's band who's playing Pink Floyd. Or you can see Ms. Lisa B. She's a big Wink supporter. She's also one of our models. She's doing an amazing Wink head roll with her Mr. Wink on her head.
It's just interesting to see, where you've come from.
Yeah.
Into the, where you are now. It's amazing. And right now you're wearing the Mighty Pterodactyl.
Yeah. So the Mighty Pterodactyl is my first design.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. He's my first design. And you should see the first pterodactyl that I drew. He's just, you should see the first claws I drew for him. They're mighty terrifying. He's my child. He came from my heart.
And tell me about the red eye.
Oh, God, he's just terrifying.
Yeah.
He's just scary as hell.
And the beak.
Yeah, look at
that mouth.
You see his gnarly, jagged, saw blade teeth. Yeah, it's really upsetting to think about him.
But you've said before that the red eye burns through your soul.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty fun.
I just thought you could go in a couple directions with this Wiener Wink.
Mm-hmm.
You could think of it this way. This guy's a dick, okay? And he represents all men. All men who are just, with their caveman mentality, who are just going to grab their woman by the ankle and just drag them into any situation that they want to. Thanks a lot, men, for just taking. You could think of it that way. Or you could think, well, you know what? He's prehistoric. These pterodactyls, they were probably jerks. And they probably were just snatching prey up, Have you ever seen, a humongous eagle, just go in and just snatch up, a little prairie dog?
Yeah, something kind of big.
Yeah. Or you see these, seabirds that, they go down and they snatch fish or ducks. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, who wants to do that to a duck? Okay, so I think of this pterodactyl, and I just think he has to be a dick. It's in his nature.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast.
Do you have, not final thoughts about Wiener Winks, but anything that you want to say, just wrapping up here?
I do want to say that I really feel so grateful that you came along on the trip with us.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first told you about this idea, you were a little bit closed off to it.
I've always been closed off.
And you've blossomed, sis.
Thanks.
It is hard. It's a hard one to take in. I have some family members who said that they're supporting me silently. And I respect that because it's disgusting, and that's okay.
But why do you think it's so funny?
Because it's these characters. You have to look at them a couple times to see what they really are. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the joke is they're winking because they're not really what they seem. You know?
Yeah. You know what Mark Holly said? Because I was like, why is this so funny? And he's like, because it's naughty. You're not supposed to be talking about penises. That is a naughty thing to do.
It is naughty.
But what would you say, Bonnie, to people who, you know, because I still find that I get one of two reactions from people. There's no middle of the road.
Right.
With people.
Right.
It's either they like this and they think it's really, really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the person that you don't expect to think that it's so hilarious, you know, or you get the other side of it, which is, this is very immature. Mm-hmm. This is very gross. Mm-hmm. And what would you say to those people who think that it's really immature? Like, how would you broaden their mind?
Well, I agree with them. For one, it is very immature. There are some clever aspects to it, mm-hmm. and that's what I like about it, is how to conceal the wink, how to tone it down, how to mask the masquerade. The masquerading aspect of it is really fun for me. So it is immature. It is gross. I agree. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is not very harmful. It's in good spirits. It's just meant to make people laugh. That's all. That's all. So if you think it's gross and immature, fair enough. I do too. But they still make me laugh.
Bonnie, thank you. Thank you for letting me follow you around and record you.
Thank you for coming with me and for being a huge support system for me. And I love you so much.
I love you.
And I do want to make a point to say that my husband, Ryan, is the reason why this is happening. Because he pushed me. I told him about this idea on our first date, actually. And since then, he has encouraged me to continue. He's been a very, very positive force in my life. I said to him, this one time, Colleen said to me, do you want to tell your children how you made your money? Do you honestly feel like this is something that you can share with them and you can say to their faces, this is what I did for a living. This is what I did to make money. And Ryan's response was, hell yes. You tell them that you worked really hard and that this is what your mother did to make this life possible for you. So hopefully we can get to that point in life where I can say someday, yes, your mother was nuts, but she did this so you could go to college. Because, Colleen, that's the ultimate goal, you know?
Yeah.
To make a little bit of money so that I can put it away and use it for something good.
Right. Well, I wish Wiener Winks the best.
Thank you.
For real.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed being on Mostly Minutia.
It's been very interesting to see people's reactions.
Yeah.
And their eyes light up when they see your creations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a good place to end.
Okay. Wink out.